Joy to you, Florence, that your banners swell, beating their proud wings over land and sea, that your name expands through all of hell. Among the thieves I have found 5 who had been your citizens, to my shame. Nor yet shall you mount to great honor peopling such a den. But if the truth is dreamed of towards the morning, you shall feel what Prato and the others wish for you, and were that day of mourning already come, it would not be too soon. So may it come, since it must, for it will weigh more heavily on me as I pass my noon. We left that place. My guide climbed stone by stone the natural stair by which we had descended and drew me after him. So we passed on, and going our lonely way through that dead land among the crags and crevices of the cliff, the foot could make no way without the hand. I mourned among those rocks, and I mourn again when memory returns to what I saw. And more than usually I curb the strain of my genius, lest it stray from virtue's course. So if some star or a better thing grant me merit, may I not find the gift cause for remorse. As many fireflies as the peasant sees when he rests on a hill and looks into the valley where he tills, or gathers grapes, or prunes his trees, in that sweet season when the face of him who lights the world rides north, or at the hour when the fly yields to the gnat, and the air grows dim. Such myriads of flames I saw shine through the gloom of the 8th abyss when I arrived at the rim from which its bed comes into view. As he the bears avenged so fearfully when Elijah's chariot depart, the horses ride towards heaven, but could not see more than the flame, a cloudlet in the sky. Once it had risen, so with the fosse, only those flames forever passing by were visible ahead, to right, to left. For through each steals a sinner's soul from view, not one among them leaves a trace of the theft. I stood on the bridge and leaned out from the edge, so far that but for a jut of the rock I held to, I should have been sent hurling from the ledge. Without being pushed, and seeing me so intent, my guide said, "There are souls within those flames. Each sinner swats himself to his own torment." "Master," I said, "your words make me more sure." But I had seen already that it was so, and meant to ask, what spirit must endure the pains of that great flame which spits away in 2 great horns, as if it rose from the pyre where Ecteles and Polynices lay? He answered me, "Forever round this path Ulysses and Diomed move in such dress, united in pain as once they were in wrath. There they lament the ambush of the horse, which was the door through which the noble seed of the Romans issued from its holy source. There they mourn that for Achilles slain sweet Diomedia weeps even in death. There they recall the Palladium in their pain." "Master," I cried, "I pray you, and repay till my prayers become 1,000, if these souls can still speak from the fire. Oh, let me stay until the flame draws near. Do not deny me, for see how fervently I long for it." and he to me. Since what you ask is worthy, it shall be. But be still and let me speak, for I know your mind already, and they perhaps might scorn your manner of speaking, since they were Greek. And when the flame had come where time and place seemed fitting to my guide, I heard him say these words to it: O you two souls, who pace together in one flame, in my days above one favor, if my days above one favor in your eyes, if I have earned however much or little of your love in writing my high verses, do not pass by, but let one of you be pleased to tell where he, having disappeared from the known world, went to die. As if it fought the wind, the greater prong of the ancient flame began to quiver and hum. Then, moving its tip as if it were a tongue that spoke, gave out a voice above the roar. When I left Circe, it said, who more than a year detained me in your gate here long before Aeneas came and gave the place that name, not fondness for my son, nor reverence for my aged father, nor Penelope's claim to the joys of love could drive out of my mind the lust to experience the far-flung world and the failings and felicities of mankind. I put out on the high and open sea with a single ship, and only those few souls who stayed true when the rest deserted me. As far as Morocco and as far as Spain, I saw both shores, and I saw Sardinia and the other islands of the open main. I and my men were stiff and slow with age when we sailed at last to the narrow pass where, warning all men back from further voyage, Hercules' pillars rose upon our sight. Already I had left Sentua on the left, Seville now rank behind me on the right. Shipmates, I said, who through 1,000 perils have reached the west, do not deny to the brief remaining watch our senses stand experience of the world beyond the sun. Greeks, you were not born to live like brutes, but to press on towards manhood and recognition. With this brief exhortation, I made my crew so eager for the voyage I could hardly have held them back from it when I was through. And turning our stern towards morning, our bow towards night, we bore southwest out of the world of man. We made wings of our oars for our fool's flight. That night, we raised the other pole ahead with all its stars, and ours had so declined it did not raise out of the ocean bed. 5 times since we had dipped our bending oars beyond the world, the light beneath the moon had waxed and waned, when dead upon our course we sighted, dark in space, a peak so tall I doubted any man had seen the like. Our cheers were hardly sounded when a squall broke hard upon the bow from the new land. 3 times it sucked the ship and the sea about, as it pleased another to order and command. At the 4th, the poop rose and the bow went down, till the sea closed over us and the light was gone. When it had finished speaking, the great flame stood tall and shook no more. Now, as it left us with the sweet poet's license, Another came along that track, and our attention turned to the new flame. A strange and muffled roar rose from the single tip to which it burned. As the Sicilian bull, that brazen spit which bellowed first and properly enough with the lament of him whose file it turned, was made to bellow by its victim's cries in such a way that though it was of brass, it seemed itself to howl and agonize. So lacking any way through or around the fire that sealed them in, the mournful words were changed into its language. When they found their way up to the tip, imparting to it the same vibration given them in their passage over the tongue of the concealed sad spirit, we heard it say, "O you at whom I aim my voice, and who were speaking Lombard, saying, 'Go now, I ask no more,' just as I came, though I may come a bit late in my turn, may it not annoy you to pause and speak a while? You see it does not annoy me, and I burn." If you have fallen only recently to this blind world from that sweet Italy where I acquired my guilt, I pray you tell me, is there peace or war in Romagna? For on earth I too was of those hills between Urbino and the fold from which the Tiber springs to birth. I was still staring at it from the dim edge of the pit when my guide nudged me, saying, "This one is Italian. You speak to him." My answer was framed already. Without pause, I spoke these words to it. "O hidden soul, your said Romagna is not and never was without war in her tyrants' ranging blood. But none flared openly when I left just now. Ravenna's fortunes stand as they have stood these many years. Polenta's eagles brood over her walls, and their pinions cover Servia, the city that so valiantly withstood the French and raised a mountain of their dead. Feels the green claws again, still in Verruccio, the aged mastiff and his pup who shed Montagna's blood, raven in their old ranges. The cities of Limone and Santerno are led by the white den's lion, he who changes his politics with his compass. And as the city the Savio washes, lies between plain and mountain, so it lives between freedom and tyranny. Now, I beg you, let us know your name. Do not be harder than one has been to you. So, too, you will preserve your earthly fame." And when the flame had roared a while beneath the ledge on which we stood, it swayed its tip to and fro, and then gave forth this breath. If I believed that my reply were made to one who could ever climb to the world again, this flame would shake no more. But since no shade ever returned, if what I am told is true, from this blind world into the living light, without fear of dishonor, I answer you. I was a man of arms, then took up the rope of the Franciscans, hoping to make amends. And surely I should have won to all my hope, but for the great priest, may he rot in hell, who brought me back to all my earlier sins, and how and why it happened, I wish to tell in my own words. While I was still encased in the pulp and bone my mother bore me, my deeds were not of the lion, but of the fox. I raced through tangled ways, all wiles were mine from birth, and I won to such advantage with my arts that rumor of me reached the ends of the earth. But when I saw before me all the signs of the time of life that cautions every man to lower his sails and gather his lines, that which had pleased me once troubled my spirit, and penitent and confessed, I became a monk. Alas, what joy I might have had of it! It was then the prince of the new Pharisees drew his sword and marched upon the Lateran, and not against the Saturine or the Jew, for every man that stood against his land was a Christian soul. Not one had warred on Acre, nor been a traitor of the Sultan's land. It was he abused his sacred vows and mine, his office and the cord I wore, which once made those it girded leaner. As Constantine went to Silvestro to cure his leprosy, seeking him out among Socrates' selves, so this one from his great throne sent for me to cure the fever of pride that burned his blood. He demanded my advice. I kept silent, for his words seemed drunken to me, so it stood until he said, Your soul need fear no wound. I absolve your guilt beforehand, and now teach me how to smash Palestrino to the ground. The gates of heaven, as you know, are mine to open and shut, for I hold the two great keys so easily kept by Celestine. His weighty arguments led me to fear silence was worse than sin. Therefore, I said, Holy Father, since you clean me here of the guilt into which I fall, let it be done. Long promise and short observance is the road that leads to the sure triumph of your throne. Later, when I was dead, St. Francis came to claim my soul, but one of the black angels said, Leave him. Do not wrong me. This one's name went into my book the moment he resolved to give false counsel. Since then, he has been mine, for who does not repent cannot be absolved. Nor can we admit the possibility of repenting a thing at the same time it is willed, for the two acts are contradictory. Miserable me! With that contrition I shuddered when he lifted me, saying, Perhaps you hadn't heard that I was a logician. He carried me to Minos. 8 times round his scabby back the monster coiled his tail. Then biting it in rage, he pawed the ground and cried, This one is for the thievish fire! And as you see, I am lost accordingly, grieving in heart as I go in this attire. His story told, the flame began to toss and wreath its horn, and so it left, and we crossed over to the ark of the next fosse, where from the iron treasury of the Lord The fee of wrath is paid to the sowers of discord.